Hey guys, M4J3F here, and welcome back to the M4J3F network on OpenTTD. You saw at the end of last episode we built our brand new station, Great Barnville Junction. It's our main interchange on the south side of Guardtown. I always get my compasses mixed up on OpenTTD. North goes to the top left corner. That's how I decide to do it. Some people do it to the top right, but I always feel top left is, I was about to say easier to remember, but it's not easier to remember at all. I just think it's easier, the whole thing of we read from top to bottom, left to right. So for me, top left is always the dominant side. Therefore, top left is the north for me. If you want to do it any other way, that's entirely up to you, but I'm just telling you how I do it. Anyway, I am absolutely, completely missing the point. We built the new station to the south of Guardtown. Is it Barnville? Yeah, Barnville. And we built two 4-track main lines. One was the connection from Planwell International, which is where this train is currently heading towards, and the other one was the connection from our new station, Guardtown St. Peter. You might notice there's a little bit of a theme going on with the main terminus stations. Considering we only really have one terminus station right now that's considered a main terminus station, that's actually in use, you can sort of see the trend there. Why has that train decided to swap lines? I have no idea. That's why I didn't like that junction to be like that, because it's going to cause all kinds of headaches. So I might have to revisit that again and see if I can make it hop up and over. I might do that with the main line at least. Anyway, this train is on its inaugural run. It runs between the two junctions, basically. It runs between Great Barnville Junction and Natburg Junction, which are actually at opposite ends of the map. I don't think you saw this in the last episode, but Great Barnville is actually very, very close to the southern edge of the map, which again gives me a bit of a headache, because the high-speed line is supposed to be the one that stretches right across the map, and yet this line does as well. So might have to do a little bit of tweaking with the high-speed line and maybe make it go east-west as well as north-south. Or maybe even make it do a complete loop and join up in the middle. Who knows? I haven't got to that stage yet. What I do know is this service that we're running here is probably going to have 10 trains running this service, just so that the other existing express trains, one of which we just passed there, just so that we don't get in the way of those. One thing I should state on this line in particular is we have two types of express train. We have the green train, like the one we have here, and we also have the red and white train. The reason the red and white train is red and white is because it stops at the intermediate stations that also cross onto the main express line. For example, this station here that we are going through, whose name I cannot read because the screen is moving too fast and I'm sitting away from it. But the reason I chose the red and white for that particular train, it's the exact same type of train as the green express, the V208 I believe it's called. But the colour scheme matches that of the stopping services. So if you look at train operators, it looks like they're the same train operator, whereas these express trains are green because they're a different colour and a different company to the other services that run on this line. The blue train, I haven't quite decided what that's going to be yet, or why it's even that colour. But I like the idea of, I see myself as sort of like a network rail type thing. I build the track, and then okay, in this case I do have to build the trains and plan the routes, but in the way that I see it in my head, it's almost like rail operators are coming on board with their own style trains and their own liveries, and just doing things their way. And that's the way I like to see it. So if we ever get to the stage that we have a huge interchange station, we can sit and just watch all these different coloured trains go through and know exactly where they're going by their colour. That's the plan. That's what I would like to achieve from this series. And I'm looking as we're going along here, and I can't actually see any of the red and white ones yet. They do the same route as the existing express trains. They run from GSG to Natburg Junction. The only difference is they stop at some of the intermediate stations. So I'm a bit surprised that I haven't seen one yet. Oh wait, there's one. Just so I say that, you can see there it's red and white, so it matches the same colour scheme as the stopping services, which are all red and white. They are something else which I forgot to mention in the last video is we have two types of train running on this route, as well as the mail train, which also just went past. train you see there now with the electric loco and the control car at the other end, that I believe only goes as far as Tunville Woods. I will have to check that, but I believe that is the case. The other train you see, which is the EMU unit, which, funny enough, there's one there, that goes as far as Knapburg Junction, both leaving from Guardtown St George. I believe it's that way round. It might be the other way round, but basically one service terminates at Tunville, the other one goes all the way through to Knapburg. We also have a little shuttle service that runs between Guardtown St George, Tinninghall, Dardinghead, the other intermediate station, whose name I've forgotten, and Planwell International. And it's kind of like a little airport hopper service. Kind of like the Gatwick Express that you get from Victoria, sorry, and Heathrow Connect, which you get from Paddington. And I believe there's a Stansted one that runs from Liverpool Street. At least there used to be. I'm not sure if there still is. Someone might have to tell me that. But it's that idea, really. You get on a train at the main station, it takes you straight to the airport and nowhere else. Although in this case, I decided to use those stations because I just like to see trains stopping at those stations. Dardinghead, not many trains use, so I thought that one would be fairly good. And the other intermediate station, whose name I still can't remember, no train was currently stopping there, so I added it onto that service. Plus, it made an interesting operational movement of trains leaving in both directions but ending up at Guardtown. I thought that was pretty cool as well. Alright, we are approaching Tunville. It's a very long route, this, actually, between Planwell and Tunville. I've forgotten just how long it is. Might need more than 10 trains. Might need like 15. We'll have to see. But you're starting to see now what I would like to do with this network and how I want to plan it out. I like stopping services, but I also like express services, and I definitely like a fine mix of the two. So, especially at places like Tunville here, it's a really good example of the 3 different types of rail that I have currently all coming together. So you've got this suburban sort of commuter service, which is heading towards Guardtown now. You've then got the express service, which we're currently watching, and then over to the right hand side of the screen you've got the very, very high speed service, which again is just about to head off towards Guardtown, although I can't quite see it because the timetable screen is in the way. And there's also the mail train there as well. In the future, I would like to have some kind of metro line linking up the 2 Guardtown terminals. I'm planning on putting a 3rd Guardtown terminal as well, pointing east. So you'll have a north, an east, and a south. Bit like Paris, with Gare du Nord, Gare de Lyon, I believe the south one is, and I can never say this properly, even though I have a GCSE in French. Is it Gare de l'Est? Basically the east station of the east. And there are other mainline stations in Paris, but those are the 3 particular ones that stand out for me. That kind of arrangement is what I would like, and I believe it should be possible. And then some kind of looping metro system that would link it all up. Maybe like a circular route, a bit like the London Overground. I do realise that I compare a lot of what I do to London, but then I live 20 miles away from London, so you can kind of understand why that is. I'm also sort of talking to fill time at the moment whilst this train runs its route. I was tempted to put it in fast forward, but I thought I'd have enough time to fill. And I probably will actually once I get talking again. Because I want to use this episode to talk about future plans whilst you watch a train run along. So, on that note, future plans. I want to increase the number of airlines that we have. Build more airports at different corners of the map and have lots and lots of planes running out of Planwell International. All 3 terminals, of course. I would like to increase the tram network, not just in Guardtown, but start putting it into other cities as well that are now big enough to accommodate it. I definitely would like to improve the bus network, but I think that's going to need a massive overhaul. The only place where I'm really happy with the buses is Planwell, because that was carefully planned out. All the other areas, it just looks a bit messy and untidy, especially Tunville, because what used to be Tunville when I built the bus line is now sort of a small part of the city centre. So the bus sort of does a little ring around a single piece of land and then goes back to Tunville Woods, which just isn't really good enough. I also want to rename Tunville Woods because I'm not very happy with that. Freight network. I want to build a huge freight network, link up as many different industries as possible using the existing infrastructure. So you can see I did the little trial with the scrap metal, the iron ore, and the coal, and it's actually quite successful. It's more successful than I thought it would be. Most of the time it's the freight trains being held up by the passenger trains, which might lose me a bit of profit, but in terms of sort of priority, I would rather the passengers got to where they wanted to go first, and then the industry. So in that sense, it's actually very, very successful. In other senses, it's probably not as successful as it perhaps could be, because we aren't making much money from it. But I think if we expand it enough and get more, especially coal, if we can get more coal in from all around the map, then we'll have more metal being produced, which means we'll have more engineering supplies, which we can then send to all sorts of different places and get more materials that way. So it's kind of a circle of progress, really. And in fact, that little EMU unit that's just pulling out has proved that the double-decker units there are the ones that go to Knapberg. I think that the thing I'm most pleased with this is these express trains go 125 miles an hour. The other trains, the commuter trains, they go somewhere between, I believe it's 87 and 101 miles an hour. Most of them are around the 100 mark. I think the 87s are... Actually, I think the 87s are the old DMUs, which I don't use anymore. So in that case, it's even more successful. I'm also not sure why the trains keep doing this. Have I missed out a piece of track when I was electrifying? Apparently not. They keep pulling out here, and then they go up to there, along, and then down again. I'm not really sure why. Apparently I haven't missed any track there when I was electrifying, so I really don't know what's going on there. I am going to electrify the line into Guardtown St. Peter as well. To start with, I just wanted to build it as a diesel, well, not even a diesel line, non-electrified line, which technically is diesel, I suppose, just to actually get it built, because as you see, there's a huge price difference between electrified and non-electrified. But as soon as I was happy with it, which I'm very happy with it now, actually, I think it was a very good line, and I like the way that it sort of snakes its way through all the different towns and cities, and then eventually links up at Barnville, Great Barnville. So I'll go ahead off camera and electrify all of that. I'll get some more commuter lines running, both up to Knapberg and also... Actually, I say to Knapberg, but I think they'll only go as far as Tunville. Some might even terminate at Planwell, just so that we're not running constant trains along the same stretch all the time. I am also going to run some trains into GSG as well, from Great Barnwell. Barnwell? No, Barnville. I'm forgetting the name of it, guys. That's not very good. The plan with Guardtown is, again, like London. You got stations like Charing Cross, Victoria, Waterloo, Waterloo East, Fenchurch Street, and I believe in some cases Paddington as well, that can all run to the same station south of London. So, for example, Waterloo, you can get a train to Portsmouth, I believe, but you can get a train to Reading. That's a good example. So, Paddington and Waterloo, you can get a train to Reading. They go different ways, but they end up at the same place. Charing Cross, Victoria, Fenchurch Street, and Waterloo. Again, actually, am I sure with Waterloo? No, I don't think I am sure with Waterloo. But Charing Cross, Fenchurch Street, and Victoria, you can get trains to places like Kent, Essex, Brighton, I believe. Again, I'm not completely up to date with my timetables because I haven't actually headed south from London on the train for a very long time. So again, if someone in the comments knows I'm wrong, please do tell me. But I know that Charing Cross you can get a train to Canterbury East, and from St Pancras you can get a train to Canterbury West. And they're not actually that far apart once you're in Canterbury. This is something that I do know because I have done this before. They're not that far apart, but in terms of how to get to those two stations from the two origins, they're miles apart. You know, St Pancras, you start off heading north, and then you curve all the way down, go through sort of East London, through Stratford, and then across the Thames, through Ebbsfleet, and then through Ashford, and all those places, and you end up right near the line that comes from Charing Cross. But that's what I want to do here. So you can get a train from Guardtown, St George, and end up at a destination that you could also get to from Guardtown, St Peter. It's the best way, I feel, of sort of sharing the load between all these different lines. Otherwise, you just have full trains running constantly, never being able to stop and pick up passengers because there's just no room on them. And I would like to avoid that as much as possible. So it will definitely be... It'd be interesting to see how it turns out, whether it works out or not. I believe it will, but until it's actually built and running, it's very hard to tell. I think Tunville is becoming one of my favourite stations, actually. I think I did a better job with Tunville than I did with most of the others. Planwell as well is also a good station. I think some of the bigger stations like Great Barnville and Knapburg, they serve their purpose. They're very practical, but they're not very aesthetically pleasing. So I might even go back off camera and just fix them a little bit. Put some bushes on the platforms. Might even put some shelters on, like I did at St Peter's. That's one thing that I might even do at St George as well, is put some shelters on there. Not cover the entire platform like I did originally, but again, I'm thinking of stations like St Pancras and even Marylebone, where the sort of the train shed covers parts of the platforms, but not all of it. I think that's probably a good idea, just so that the little four tile trains are fully covered. Anything longer will stick out the end, but at least then the commuters will stay dry if it rains, which it never rains on this game, but imagine if it did. You'd be able to see then that they'd be staying under cover, keeping nice and dry. And that's, you know, customer service, really. It's what you want when you're getting on a train. You want somewhere to eat, somewhere to drink, and somewhere to keep warm and dry. And if you're missing one of those key things, then oh dear, not a very nice station. So I aim to build my stations based on my favourite stations around the country. So King's Cross is a favourite of mine because I go there so often now, and the new atrium that they built very recently is fantastic. So Guardtown St George, I tried to replicate that, but I couldn't stick it under a roof. For two reasons. One, there's no real roof tile available, and secondly, what's the point in spending ages building something if you're then going to stick a roof over it so no one can see it? I want you guys to be able to see it, so in that case I left it open. St Peter is going to have something like that as well, once it's finished, of course. It's nowhere near finished at the moment. We've got those, was it 10 platforms or 8 platforms in place? There's still a lot of work needs doing on it. The third terminal is probably going to be the smallest of the three. I mean, I'm saying that now with all kinds of confidence, but plans change, especially when I'm building things. They change very quickly. But the plan is to have that terminal as the smallest of the three, just as a third option, really, because the other line from St Peter is going to curve north, and I will build in fact, I don't need to build a new junction, Causton Junction, where the other line from Guardtown St George comes out. That will also curve. Did I say north? I meant east. They will both curve east and join up with the line from the new terminus, somewhere east of Guardtown. But again, I'm planning too far ahead, and I'm probably going to forget everything that I've said by the time I sit down to record next episode. So that is what I would like to do. Fingers crossed that I actually remember to do it. And again, you can see just how long it takes for this train to travel on this journey. It's a very long time. The times that I originally set for the stops have changed, but I think I'm going to keep them as they are now, because this train is pretty much loaded to the max on every single stop. So it knows how long it takes to unload and reload, and that's one of the issues that I've had with these trains. That's why the blue train that we're about to pass is now a blue train, because the original unit I had, I think it took like 12 days to load, and at these intermediate stations you can't have 12 days because there's always going to be a train behind waiting to use the platform. So I went for something that didn't have a max loading time, set it for 3 days per stop. The speed was exactly the same, so that wasn't a problem. They go 100 miles an hour. And that fixed the problem. Actually, it was very, very useful. And in fact, they are the ones that go to the diesel side of Guardtown St George. And they actually come in through Dunning Head into the Planwell International Station that way. How far are we from Planwell now? I think it's this station, and I believe it's a tunnel, and then it's Planwell. You can see here, it's especially around Planwell that all the trains queue up, and I think that's because of where all the different lines converge. Where the freight only line joins up, creates 1 or 2 problems, but the three different lines that come in from Guardtown can create problems. But I mean, it's all about traffic control, really, isn't it? If I could manage it, then I probably would be doing it for a living. So the fact that I'm only doing it on a game and making a hash of it sort of shows that I'm in the right line of work, really. Or at least I'm not in the wrong line of work. Right, so that is the last stop before we head back to Great Barnville. I'm a little bit disappointed, actually, that I didn't put more express stations between Great Barnville and Planwell, but actually, when you count the number of intermediate stations as well, it would be very obvious that I put an express station in just for the sake of it, and there's no actual need for one. So I am happy with the new line. The tunnels are a bit long in places, but I didn't really have much choice. I did destroy a lot of town in order to build some of the stations in, and again, off camera, I'll go around and rebuild the town around the stations. That is one thing I like about the Magic Bulldozer tool. It is cheating in some respects, but you do get to build stations in the centre of towns, and there are lots of towns where that is the case. There are some stations that are built out of town. There's parkways which are built out of town, mainly used as park and rides, and that's fine. Sort of the clues in the name as to what they're to be used for. But for me, I like to have my stations as close to the city centre as possible, or the town centre. So I think that was a good idea, actually, just to go through and it also, I mean, it keeps the line running straighter as well, not having to curve around all these towns. I mean, every now and then a main line snakes around, and that's exactly why the Pendolinos were built for the West Coast main line, so that they could go around the corners faster than the old trains did. And that's fine, but I like to have my trains running at optimum speed for as long as possible. So in this case, it was keeping the line as straight as possible, and if that meant bulldozing through the centre of a town, then it's a win-win situation, really. I am tempted to build a connection between that line that we've just gone under and the line that we're currently on. Again, it'll be connecting to the slow lines only, like I did on the non-electrified line. Which again, I'm very pleased with the fact that I was able to put that in. It's yet another connection, which might not even be used that often, to be perfectly honest, but could still be used. It could be used for freight trains, thinking about it, because there are freight trains running up and down that route, especially to the engineering supplies factory, which I think is just a factory. But here we are. We are back at Great Barnville. Now, you might have seen that in the last episode that I built one set of sidings on the west side of the throat here, on the south end of the station. I'm going to build another set of sidings on the north side, one on the west side of the tracks and one on the east side of the tracks. Basically, Great Barnville is going to be my Clapham Junction. There's going to be lots of train sidings, there's going to be lots of different directions in which you can head out from. Again, the platforms are only half finished. There's going to be a whole other set of platforms on the east side of the station that are going to serve other lines. Again, the train's doing that weird snaky thing again. I'm not really sure why it's doing that. But I think I've talked for long enough, guys. This train is going to run back into the depot. I'm going to stop it once it gets back into the siding, send it back to the depot, queue up the more trains like I have done in the past. That's something that I'm avoiding putting on camera all the time because it does get quite tedious, so I can understand if you guys don't want to see it all the time. But yeah, I am going to end the episode here. If you like this episode, then let me know. It's something different. I thought I would try. It's something like I used to do in my Cities in Motion series, where we just follow a vehicle on its route whilst I talk about what's been going on, both in the series and also explain future plans. So yeah, if you like the concept, then let me know and I'll do this more often. If you're not too keen, then that's also fine. Basically, I would just like to know. And I'm trying to type whilst finishing off this episode, which is never a good idea. But there you go. So yeah, let me know if you enjoy this concept. If you do, I'll do it more often. If you don't, then I won't do it as much. And apart from that, guys, thanks very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to click the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you guys for your continued support. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. And until next time, I will see you soon.